All right, we are live. Sunny Days Media Football Show, Week 9. Are we in Week 9? I do this every week. I don't know what week
Week
we're in.
9.
We're in Week 9. We got to be fair here. It is whatever it is. 2 days before Election Day, right? We're talking about equality. We're talking about being fair. We shit on the Jets quite a bit on this show. Facino, the Jets win Thursday night. You were at that game. Why don't we start off with that? Let's give out some flowers. Who are we giving out? We know Joe Douglas is asshole of the week.
He'll never get a
obviously.
flower, but
He'll never get flowers, and that's okay.
I'll always give it to Aaron Rodgers because he came
course.
here. I mean, the guy's the best quarterback I've ever seen play for the Jets. And he throws touchdowns. You get to the red zone normally, and he is amazing in the red zone. But last week or Thursday, he showed that you can score from outside the 20, with the Jets always have a problem with. The Jets can never score, from 30, 40, 50 yards out. But they were able to a few times, and I think that's important in today's day and age. It's hard to just methodically go down the field, 12, 13, 14 play drives. That's what they want. That's what teams want you to do. They want you to call as many plays and see if you can make a mistake. So the fact that they were able to score from the 20, 30 shows me that maybe with Devontae they have a little bit more firepower. That's what they wanted. Look, I do feel like it's a little bit too late. 6 losses is not good in the first 9 weeks. So can they turn it around? Maybe. If they do turn it around, they will be the hottest team to get into the playoffs because they would have to win 7 out of 8. So we'll see. I'm not going to give up on Rodgers because you'd be a fool to give up on that guy. But I do think that you're looking to you're hoping that you can get lucky here, which sucks. But it's the GM's fault. You couldn't field the team in the beginning of the year, so now you got a little too late.
I'll be a fool. I gave up on him, but had a really nice second half. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets offense, rough first half. I mean, whoever number 14 is, dropping that ball crossing the goal line. Who was it? Deshaun Jackson that did that like 5-6 years ago. What are we doing? You're a rookie. Hang on to that fucking ball. This is a game where clearly, especially in the beginning, points were really hard to come by. You could see that the Texans D was playing the Jets tough. What in the world are you thinking? Celebrate. I have no problem. You get. I mean, Bill Belichick used to say it all the time. We work so hard, right? We learn this playbook. We practice. We do our walkthroughs. It is so hard to score points in the NFL. To go out and do it, yeah, go out and celebrate, but cross the fucking plane with the ball first. The ball should be in both of your hands. Hand it off to the official and then celebrate. Do everything you want. Hell, even get a fucking flag on the celebration. I don't give a shit. But score the fucking touchdown, man. Before you do anything, score the touchdown. Jets look really good. They look good. The Texans are a team that, everybody coming into this year, myself included, thinking they're going to win the AFC South. They're the most competitive team. It really doesn't look that way right now. It really looks like the Texans are letting this slip between their fingers. It's their own fault. The Jets took advantage there. And you know what? Yeah, you can emotionally give up on Rodgers, right? That's your prerogative as a fan, but he's the quarterback right now. Like, we're not talking about next year. We're not talking about draft picks and Shedeur Sanders and other guys in college. Right here, right now, the Jets' objective is to turn this season around, and you got to look at this. If you're a Jets fan, you have got to look at this. I was telling Facino on the phone, I think it was Friday afternoon after work, you've got to look at this. I think the way, I'll bring it back to myself, the way Lions fans looked at 2022, and we did miss the playoffs by one game, but we started that season 1-6, ended the season 9-8. They went 8-2 down that stretch. That was incredible. If you're the Jets, you've just got to look at this. Don't look 3, 4, 5 games in the future. You just got to look at your next game, and that's it. You've got to look at your next game, and literally every week is a new season. Just win next week. Win next week. That was really good, winning an AFC game. That's going to help in that tiebreaker scenario if there is and will be one, getting into the playoffs. So that was a really good stepping stone for the Jets. I'm going to give some flowers to Jeff Ulbrich. This is a guy that took some heat past couple of weeks on since taking over as the head coach. People felt as if he ignored the defense and wasn't giving it enough attention. First of all, that's bullshit. Like, this guy's still coaching the defense. There's no difference there. He's just got to be in the offensive meetings as well. I give him a ton of credit. You held the team together. I guess you did the right thing. I don't think 14 got another snap after he fumbled walking into the end zone. I don't think he played again.
He got like 2 more snaps. They needed a player, but I wouldn't look. We have watched horrible football outside of the last 2 years for yourself and outside of pretty much my entire life. The draft is becoming as fun for the fans as the regular season, especially when your team sucks. So fans pay attention to it a lot more. And it's funny because you a lot of times may like a player that your team doesn't like and that guy pans out, or your team drafts a guy you've never heard of and he sucks. Or maybe he's good, but the odds are with the Jets and with teams that suck that they're not good. And the Jets, had the easiest script to, success through the draft this year, and they absolutely blew it. The Fashanu pick, handcuffing them to a tackle when they needed, backups at guard, tackle, and, they needed backup at 4 out of the 5 positions on the line, and they didn't address it at all. So, Graham Barton and Talise Fuaga were the picks if you wanted to go line, because they could have played almost any position.
So to get this clear here too, you would have been okay if they took Fuaga there at 10. I mean, yeah. I know that you wanted Bowers, but beyond Bowers.
Fuaga,
if it couldn't be
100%.
Bowers, you would have been okay with Fuaga. Yeah, I was in that.
He was the best. He was the most versatile, run blocking, nasty guy. Where when you do have, players that miss time,
yeah,
you don't want to replace them with guys that could just pass block because they're never going to be as good as they were in college. They're going to need a few years. And you bring the run blocker in, and at least you could set the tone and play, use play action to your advantage. Aaron Rodgers is ranked. I mean, PFF, you could love him or hate him. It doesn't matter. They ranked Rodgers as the number 3 quarterback in passing situations, like no play action, just the quarterback's throwing the ball. Mm-hmm. He's been ranked as the 3rd highest rated passer. Now, on play action, he's like 20th. And a lot of that stems from the fact that nobody cares if the Jets run the ball. You don't have to stack the box against the Jets. I never would. These guys can't run block. So if somebody gets hurt, like AVT or Morgan Moses, you're putting a guy in that is a immediate downgrade at run blocking and maybe the same pass protector. So you haven't done anything different. You haven't got, brought anybody in here that can help. And they don't have any backup guards. So once they did make that Fashanu pick, then you said, all right, the 3rd round, maybe a guard would be in play here because, we're fans, but Cooper Beebe, Haynes, Puni, there was guards that were around, and those were the best players available at that time, and you still needed that position. So by not drafting a guy that was versatile enough, you then needed a guard, and then you didn't take the guard, and you took a player that can barely see the field, finally gets the football, and throws it on the ground. It's just a typical Joe Douglas failure that you see every year. So, but you know what? They beat a Texans team that has a better record than how good they are. And they have one of the most difficult schedules down the stretch. CJ Stroud probably talked a little bit too early. And, someone in his camp's got to, tell him to shut up. When you go through an off season, yeah, you were the rookie of the year. Yeah, you won a playoff game, but you haven't done anything. A lot of quarterbacks that have done what he did in the first year, they don't talk like that. I never heard Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence or Joe Burrow. I never heard them talk
Justin
like
Herbert's
that.
won a playoff game.
But Justin Herbert was a rookie of the year, and he didn't go parading around like he was a top 5 quarterback because that's just not the person that he is. And I like that in my quarterback, to be a little bit more humble because there's a lot of bulletin board material for him right now, especially what he said about Rodgers. Like, he said in the offseason that Matt Stafford was a Packer, that he'd have more Super Bowl rings than Rodgers. I mean, even if he did, It's a stupid thing to say. Those are the guys that you look up to. Those aren't the guys that you clown. And Aaron Rodgers made him look stupid at 40 years old. He made him look dumb. And I'm glad that happened. I think that a lot of guys, a lot of this younger generation that doesn't stop, and they're on the podcast every week. Like, I'm not in the NFL. If I was in the NFL, I'd be making enough money. I would probably not have time to do a podcast on Sundays, and I wouldn't do it because all you can do is hurt yourself. All you can do is hurt, and these guys hurt themselves over and over again by just taking interviews and starting their own podcast and just talking about players. It's just the drama needs to stop. You got to go out there and play, and nothing is given, nothing is guaranteed. Once that season ends, everybody's 0-0. So he'll learn.
We have a nice slate in front of us today. A lot of what's going to happen today is going to impact what is going to happen on Tuesday. So obviously, all of you know Tuesday is election day. What Tuesday is also is the trade deadline for the NFL. Tuesday, 4:00 p.m. Eastern time is the trade deadline. A lot of games I'm looking at here. The Bengals, the Browns. Bengals play the Raiders, okay? Two teams who have players they can trade away. Will they? Who knows? The Browns play the Chargers. They're at home. That's a 1 p.m. game. Browns have a couple of guys. Zadarius Smith, Denzel Ward, Njoku, obviously Myles Garrett. The Browns are a team that were 2-6 walking into 1-6 walking into last week. They win. Jameis Winston comes in for Deshaun Watson, and they win last week. Now they're 2-6. They win again. They're 3-6. What helps them is that they beat the Ravens, right? A divisional opponent, and that does help in the tiebreaker system when it comes to winning that division. Now, this is a team we've talked about quite a bit. And they're just, you talk about a poor front office. I mean, you think the Jets have a poor front office. Look a little further west in Cleveland, Ohio, giving Deshaun Watson all of that money, all of it guaranteed. Facino, what's going to happen today? So the Chargers come to Cleveland. Let's do both scenarios here. So if the Browns lose, I think you're going to start to see a bit of a fire sale. Maybe not Myles Garrett, but I think Zadarius Smith is gone. If the Browns win, what happens? Do they kind of call all these teams back and say, yeah, never mind, no one's for sale? Or are they realistic with themselves and say, we're 3-6? Because, we're talking about the Jets kind of being up and, you got to take this one game at a time. Let's be fair. Cleveland may kind of look at it the same way, right? Jameis Winston's around. Guys are happy. I think the guys like playing with Jameis Winston a heck of a lot more than they like playing with Deshaun Watson. I understand all the kind words they said about him when he blew his Achilles, but I think Jameis Winston's a much more exciting and good guy to be around for sure. It seems like that team responds to Jameis a little better than they do Deshaun. What do you think happens here if Cleveland wins? Because, I mean, as a Lions fan, there's two guys on that roster I want. Now, one might be a little more hard to get, but Zadarius Smith is a definite trade candidate. He's 32 years old. He's on a 1-year deal. What happens if the Browns win?
I'm rooting for the Browns. Honestly, the Jets need all the help they can get, but I don't know. I mean, they moved the trade deadline back 1 week, and I thought that it would have been nice to move it back to week 11 because that 2-6 team, they normally trade, but the 3-5 team never trades. They use 99% of the time they don't. If you're 2-6, you're probably going to trade. But if now you have that one extra week to go 3-6, where maybe you don't want to trade. Now, if they push it back 2 more weeks, all the 7 lost teams would be trading. And what it would do is it would allow those teams that had bad starts to the season to take advantage of, draft capital, which would make those teams better. So you want a league of parity. You want, even teams, and, you have teams that want to go on a playoff push. Do it like baseball. Baseball, I think the trade deadline's like 70% of the way through the season. With NFL, it's like 60%. Give them an extra game or two. Let things shake out a little bit more. See what teams are definitely selling. And I think it would be a little bit easier to make some trades. So I would say the Browns will probably trade Zadarius Smith regardless. I think that they would never trade Myles Garrett unless they have that 7th loss and they get ridiculous.
We lost you there.
Oh, am I back?
We lost you, but you came back. You said that you think that they're probably, if they win, you think they're still trading Zadarius Smith.
Yeah, I think Smith's gone. because of the way the contract works, if they lose the 7th game
See, but
and
that's
they get
well,
everything,
if
then
if they
maybe.
lose, he's gone. If they lose today, he's gone. But if you're see, like now, you could like Mike Tannenbaum or not. I know Jet fans probably mixed emotions on him. But he did bring up a really good point. He was on Pat McAfee, or he was on Get Up. He was on some show on ESPN. He was talking about this, and he's been pounding the drum for the Detroit Lions to trade for Myles Garrett, and he's literally he's gone as far as saying Jahmyr Gibbs, which is crazy. Like, no, I'm not giving up Jahmyr Gibbs for Myles Garrett. That doesn't make me better, right? I mean, it makes me better, but that's not really a solution.
Yeah, what cost? Yeah,
but he did bring up a good point. What people don't always think about and realize when they're talking about, oh, just make that trade. Like, yeah, okay, from a front office standpoint, yes. I mean, that's at times the best thing to do. But you're talking about a 53-man roster that's going to walk in Tuesday morning for their meetings, and Zadarius Smith isn't there, and potentially Myles Garrett's not there. How do you look those guys in the face and say, well, it's okay, guys, we got 2 first-round picks and we got a 3rd-round pick? 85% of that room is not going to be in that room next year. These guys' careers are 2.5, 3 years long for the most part, right? We're not talking about the TJ Watts of the world and the Myles Garretts, and like most of that 53-man roster is not going to be here next year. And they're kind of just sitting there like, okay, now what? Now what's my motivation? What's my motivation? What are we still trying to do? You're clearly not trying to win if you're just letting these guys go, right? So it's really hard. That's what's going to make it really complex, right? If the Cleveland Browns win, they're 3-6, they've got some mojo. You literally just take all of the air out of the balloon if you let Zadarius Smith go. And I agree with you, Pacino. That is the right organizational move to make. But it's really hard to tell the other 53 guys, the other 52 guys in that room that it is. The Bengals, they're another team. They're 3-5 right now. They win today. They're probably going to beat the Raiders today, right? So now they're going to be 4-5. Do you Trey Hendrickson is another guy I'm looking at, a pass rusher he's got this year and next. I think he signed through 2025.
So Matt, when you're 32 years old, it's a little bit different.
Trey Hendrickson
Darius Smith is no. I'm saying Darius Smith is.
Yeah, he is.
He's not the captain. He's not a leader of the team. Myles Garrett would be.
He's their leading pass rusher right now. He's got the most sacks on the team. If they're trying to make a playoff push, no matter what we think here, that organization, that group of guys, maybe not the organization, but those 53 guys in that room are trying to make a playoff push, and they believe that they can. So
yeah.
And same thing with the Bengals. The Bengals are going to win today. They're going to beat the Raiders. They're going to be 4-5.
Yeah, they're not trading anybody.
I don't see them trading Trey Hendrickson. That's not.
They can't, happen. Especially because the Bengals do this often. They have a slow start and then they make the playoffs. Right. So they all think they're going to the playoffs, even at 4-5. I wouldn't be concerned about them. I think the only team. I mean, who else sucks?
Well, Tennessee's got 2 pass rushers. They've got Harold Landry and Arden Key.
Arden Key is a guy you might want to look for.
Definitely. The issue is he's not like a hand in the dirt D end. He's considered an off the ball linebacker,
which you probably would rather. I mean, you want the Lions want the best possible guy. I mean, if you're comfortable giving up 1st-round picks, you could almost have anybody on any team that sucks.
Not really, because I think that's been tried in Vegas, and the Raiders are not willing to do it. I mean, I'm sitting here right now. I'll tell you, I'll give up the next 2 first-round picks. I'll give up a 3rd-round pick. I don't give a fuck what I have to give up. I would love to have Max Crosby here. Just don't think the Raiders are going to do it. Their owner has come out continuously to say it. And I know all owners are going to say that publicly, right? And then if you trade the guy, you just say, well, yeah, Detroit gave us an offer we couldn't refuse, and we're trying to rebuild here. And then you pivot. But just basically,
I think that's the move. I think you wait and see if the Raiders lose this week, and you offer them 2 firsts and a 3rd. That's about the value Jalen Ramsey had, but I think and edge rusher is a more important position. Mm-hmm. I think you could make it happen. I don't think obviously Jalen Ramsey wanted to leave, so they got as much as they could. But I think that the Raiders are in a position where their quarterbacks are embarrassing. They need way more than just a quarterback. And if they trade Max Crosby, they can ensure that the fact that they will suck this year. They have a not the easiest schedule down the road. They have they got to play the Dolphins in Miami. They got to go to the Raiders, or they got a home game against the Broncos. Broncos
Still
are
got to play
decent
the
this year.
Broncos. Yeah.
Yeah, the Chiefs, they got to play the Falcons, the Buccaneers, the Jaguars, and they have the Saints are the only winnable game really on this schedule outside of, one or two fluke victories that every team pulls out.
The Dolphins are a joke.
Yeah, but the Dolphins have Tua, and the Dolphins are at home. I think the Dolphins beat them. I think the Raiders will probably end up with a top 3 pick this year. You have Cam Ward and Shador Sanders. I think Shador Sanders will probably be the pick, and if they pair him with the first round pick with the Lions this year, the first round pick next year, third round or second or fourth round pick in 2025, and some other free agent signings, because now you have the Max Crosby money freed up. The Raiders could rebuild in a year and a half, and everybody forgets about Max Crosby. You hate to say it, but I mean that's what you have to do, and you have to also hope that Tyree Wilson can be a real NFL player. I mean, if Tyree Wilson was a real guy. And actually,
we lost Facino. If I had to guess, that's because he didn't charge his laptop. Our apologies, folks. But to continue on with what Facino was talking about with the Raiders, yeah, it makes all of the sense in the world if you're the Las Vegas Raiders to trade away Max Crosby. I think he's 27 years old. By the time this franchise does get turned around, how old is this? How old is this guy going to be? Just looking at my dog Cam, he's going nuts upstairs. By the time you get this, what the hell? Sorry. By the time you get this whole thing turned around, where is he going to be? Where are the Raiders going to be? How old is he going to be? And, you're kind of sitting there. Let's say you are good. Now, by the time you are good, you're sitting there with a 33-year-old Max Crosby, and you could have sped up this rebuild. You could have maybe you're not going to find another Max Crosby, right? That's a really hard thing to find. But maybe with those first-round picks Detroit can send you, you could use those to trade up and pair your Shador Sanders with a great left tackle, a great right tackle, a great guard in the 20th spot of that first round. Like, there's so much manipulation you could do. And I would have thought when the Lions turned this whole thing around in 2022, essentially, right? 22 in the 21 and 22 draft. They used that capital that they got from the Rams, right? Like, trading away Matt Stafford sucked. It sucked, right? Because that was all we knew for 12 years, right? That, like, okay, the defense is going to suck, but we're stable at quarterback. Like, we're stable at quarterback. This quarterback can win us games. This quarterback can absolutely win a Super Bowl. Obviously, you saw him go and do that with the Rams. But trading that guy away, now it helps that we got Jared Goff back, and Jared Goff is, like, playing out of his fucking mind, which was not expected. But you were able to use those first-round picks to manipulate the first round of the draft and get the pieces that you need. I mean, think about all of the star players in Detroit. We talk about this all the time. The star players on this team: Brian Branch, second-round pick; Jahmyr Gibbs, number 12 overall; Jack Campbell, number 18 overall, 20 overall, whatever he was. Aiden Hutchinson was that second overall pick. Like, this team got better through the draft, and they were able to basically take a 3 to 5 year plan and turn it into a 2 to 3 year plan, if we're being honest. I mean, that Dan Campbell press conference was only 3 years ago. That was January of 2021. And since then, this team has pretty much, outside of that, ugly 2021, this team has only known winning. And it's all because they were able to build through the draft and speed up that rebuilding process. If you're trying to rebuild with the draft picks you've got currently, it's harder. But if you've got those extra 2 first-round picks and reinforcing what you want to do, I mean, that allows you to kind of be the kid walking into the book fair in 4th grade with $30 in your pocket, right? You can get whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm the Raiders, I got it. And once again, I'm biased, but, like, think big picture here. How long is it going to be until this team is really worth something. And at that point, how much is Max Crosby really going to contribute? Why don't we take the capital we can get now, ensure that our first round pick that we're getting at quarterback is going to actually excel? Because look at some of the issues. Just for example, the Chicago Bears. Now, the Chicago Bears, they might be a playoff team this year, but like, how far is a team like that going? You brought in Caleb Williams. You brought in Rome Odunze, who I believe in Rome Odunze a lot more than I believe in Caleb. But the point is you put no line in front of him. You did not. You invested a first round pick in a tackle, whatever it was, last year or 2 years ago. But your interior O line sucks. I mean, you've done really nothing to you've supplied Caleb weapons, but you've done nothing to fortify the wall in front of him. And now it just got and now look at what we just saw against the Commanders. Like, you just got beat by another rookie quarterback that was picked 10, 12, 13 picks after him, who looks like the better pick right now. I mean, hands down, Jaden Daniels looks better, but Jaden Daniels has a better line in front of him.
Yeah, the Bears are lucky because they didn't give up anything for Caleb Williams. They just got lucky. Yeah, I mean, they could build around him. Caleb Williams is also, he needs time. He also needs a new coach. It would
have been wiser to pick some offensive linemen instead of taking Rome Odunze. Maybe take Tylese Fuaga, right? Like that. Yeah. That would have been a great idea.
That would have been a way better pick.
That would have been so much smarter than taking a great wide receiver, because a great wide receiver is not going to win for you right now.
Well, also, he's not great. You know, I mean,
if you're gonna say give Caleb time, you got to give Rome Odunze time.
Yeah, I just think it's funny because these teams, I mean, it is what it is. Within like a few weeks, I feel like you can kind of tell. I probably, in retrospect, would have put Brian Thomas on that team. I would have took him 9th because Caleb Williams has the best arm in the league as far as like how far and how easily he can throw the ball anywhere. He just doesn't have that. Like, he was drafted off of arm talent. He wasn't drafted off of knowing how to play the position at an elite level in the pocket. And when you got a guy that can run 22.5 miles an hour and can outrun everybody, if Caleb Williams does have time to move around the pocket like he's been doing, he's getting sacked because his players aren't separating down the field. If they were separating down the field, he'd be chucking it all over the yard. I think that, you know, adding Keenan Allen didn't necessarily help them. And Rome Odunze is one of this. He's really a Keenan Allen clone where, you know, Brian Thomas is going to stretch the field and open up stuff underneath for a guy like, you know, Keenan Allen, where Rome Odunze isn't opening up anything. Rome Odunze is a guy you got to throw the ball to.
It also made no sense that you let David Montgomery walk. You let him go to your division rival, and your solution this year was, we're gonna take the running back that they threw away 2 years ago, to bring in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery in DeAndre Swift, and they thought that was going to be a solution. And I remember listening to Bears fans talk about, you know, the upcoming season. Oh, we've got Swift, and like, did you not watch Swift for 4 years in Detroit? Did you not, or whatever it was, 3 years? Like, did you not watch this guy drop a pass against you in 2020? 2 yards away from, whatever it was, 10 yards away from the end zone on a game-winning, you know, what would have been a game-winning pass. Like, this is DeAndre Swift. The guy doesn't hit holes.
He's a good player. He's not the best running back, but you had a guy that could break tackles in Chicago. You want a bruiser. I can't believe they got rid of him. It was very stupid, but it's just, you know, good teams take players from rivals because it's addition by subtraction, yes, no matter what. And I mean, DeAndre Swift he has not been the guy this year. No, I don't even know if
he did nothing. He was good for like 3 or 4 weeks in Philly last year. And
all right, he hasn't been the worst. He just is such a drop off from what they had, and it's very confusing why bad teams let good players go all the time. It really is so confusing to me.
You traded away your 20 whatever. You traded away your 2015 Toyota Camry that gave you no problems and brought in a Ford Fusion because you thought it looked cooler. Like, that's essentially what you did, right? David Montgomery is a very stable power running back. I don't think David would look this good if he played behind an average line. No, I don't think he would look this good if he wasn't playing with Jahmyr Gibbs as well, right? But like if he was just the guy, he wouldn't look this good. But he's a quality running back, right? Like this is a power guy, and he can catch passes. He's got a great skill set. So, let's talk about some other games here on the slate. We've talked a little about the trade deadline. I guess we'll bring it back up toward the end of the show. Commanders Giants today. They are in MetLife. Commanders are favored by 4. I think they should clear that. This is a game they should win by 6 or 10 points.
You know what? I disagree.
You disagree? Yeah.
I thought the Giants outplayed the Commanders, or they played them very evenly the last time they played them in Washington. And also, the elections on Tuesday, I don't think the commies are going to win. So I'll pick the Giants.
Oh, that's a good way of putting that. Well,
can't take the commies today.
Can't take. I hate that too. That's such a dumb. Commanders was such a dumb name. I mean, you talk about rebranding, right? They had to go away from the Redskins name. That's a debate within itself, but that's fine. They go away from it. They're the Washington football team. Honestly, you probably should have just stayed the Washington football team if your next pick was going to be the Commanders. But I don't know why they didn't lean into the Hogs. Like that was what everybody called them in the 80s and the 90s, and guys used to wear pig noses to games, and it was in reference to that like ferocious offensive line they had for like 2 decades. And I feel like you kind of could have done something cool with, like, as dumb as this sounds, like the Boar's Head, not the Boar's Head logo, but like you could have done something like that. And I think people would have rallied around it because it was similar to what they had, 40 years ago. So I think you would have gotten the millennial and like the boomer demographic. And I think the young kids would have kind of rallied around it too, because it's a part of their history. I don't know, but
I would have been the Wolves. I would have just been the Washington Wolves.
Yeah.
Not even red. Just the Wolves, and then you could just be red. You don't have to, there's Huskies that are red. I have a red Husky at home, You could just have been the Wolves, Wolfpack, you could – it's so stupid. I hate the Commanders. I hate the Guardians. I think that those names are so stupid. It's amazing, right? I mean, you had the ability to be anything you wanted to be. And you pick the worst possible name. It's incredible. But, the fan base should be able to change the name. The fan base should start a petition, and the season ticket holders should start, something where they're able to, change the name by themselves. I don't know why they can't. Why is it that, the guys that are paying to go to the games can't name the team? Because when you do that, you get a great name.
This
the Jaguars.
This was Dan Schneider that did this.
Yeah, he's an asshole. Yeah. The Jaguars were going to be. I don't know if people know this. They were going to be the Stingrays, and they decided that they were going to put they were going to allow the city to name the team. So they had the Jacksonville Stingrays, the Jacksonville Sharks, and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, the Jaguars was going to win because it makes the most sense. Jaguars are a way better animal than those three, and it rhymed. It's like, the Detroit Lions are, that's not a bad name, but it's a classic name. When you go and you look at all the names, the Green Bay Packers, that's a great name. The, Minnesota Vikings, the New York Giants, the New York Jets, like these names, they work. You could tell that they weren't trying. With the Washington name, they tried so hard to just fuck it up. It's incredible.
Jacksonville's in Philly today.
Yeah, that's an interesting game. I mean, the Texans are so – there's so much of a question mark that the Jaguars got to be kicking themselves that they couldn't beat the freaking Packers, got to be kicking themselves they couldn't beat the Dolphins, and they got to be kicking themselves that they couldn't beat the Browns. I mean –
well, that was an embarrassing loss last week because the Packers had lost so much. When Jordan Love comes out, the Packers had kind of lost so much momentum, and – the Jags were able to score. They were able to go up. And then the defense is just like, nope, there you go. Just take the game right back. Like,
yep.
Jacksonville cannot play defense. There is no part of the Jacksonville team. Maybe the pass rush looks all right. Outside of that, you've got no run defense up the middle. You're weak. Your corners. I mean, this has to be, not to pile on here for Sino, but I think you're okay with it. This Jacksonville secondary has to be one of the worst secondaries I've ever seen. It's maybe it's not that bad, but this looks very eerily similar to the secondary that I'm very used to seeing in Detroit. Just Swiss cheese, throw all over us, do whatever you want to do. We're not going to make a play on it. We're not going to cover receivers. Our safeties are out to lunch. Don't know what the fuck your safeties were doing on that last drive. And you could talk about being exhausted, but like game's on the line here. Like that was a very, very winnable end of that game. And there's a big difference between walking into week 9, 3-5 and 2-6.
Well, I don't think we'll ever see the defense that the Jaguars had in 17 ever, because they just have proven for the last 20 years that they cannot, form a secondary. They decided to trade better players or, not re-sign better players, sign worse players. They switched from zone to man, and they run mostly man. The man coverage that they run is getting toasted because they don't blitz. When you're running man coverage, you got to blitz. You got to send a guy so that your quarterback can make a mistake. Yeah. And they're not getting to the quarterback within 3 seconds. Well, if you've got a good defense,
I mean, my opinion, like if you've got fast corners and center fielders that are playing safety, I think man is the best defense to run. I think like bring it back to backyard football, man. Like at the end of the day, if my guy can keep up with your guy, I'm gonna beat you. If they could do that, if I've got a pass rush, like you said. If you don't have a pass rush, you've got to disguise it. You've got to run zone. You've got to try to confuse. That's your next best bet. Try to confuse the quarterback. Play bend but don't break defense, and it's not really exciting. But that's ultimately when you don't have the personnel to do it. That's what you've got to do, and that's what Matt Patricia was killed for here in Detroit for so long, because he just insisted on playing man. And people want to bitch about the scheme. Listen, guys, it's not always about the scheme. It's about the personnel. It's about utilizing your personnel in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Like I think me and you would agree on this. Like the Lions, for example, could literally the week before hand their playbook to whoever they're playing, and they'll still beat them. They'll beat them because they're more physical. They've got the personnel. They've got the players. And like it's straight up like I said, backyard football. We're gonna line up. We're giving the ball to Dave Montgomery. Yep. You can't stop it. But once again, if you don't have the personnel to run man, you can't run man, and you're gonna kill yourself that way. And that's what we saw in the end of that Packers game. I mean, that was embarrassing. That was so embarrassing. And I'm watching that game like I'm jumping up and down for your Jaguars because you had just lost the Jets game, and I'm jumping up and down for your Jaguars, and just like to give up, that's so deflating. What I will say is you're playing an Eagles team here who is not very good. Despite their record, the Eagles are not that good. They're not a powerhouse. Their head coach is a fucking moron. And this is a classic Eagles fuck-up game. So if you could catch them sleeping here and bang Jalen Hurts over the head, I think you could win this game. I don't know that you're going to win, but I think you'll cover the 7.5. I don't like that spread.
You know what, man? After the first 2 games, the Jaguars let up 20 points and 18 points. Obviously, the Browns game, they let up 18 points to the Browns. The Browns suck. So, great. You only let up 18. The Browns defense played well. So, they stumbled out of the gate, and they let up 47, 24, 34, 35, 16, and 30. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, you let up fucking 30 points. I don't know. What do you expect to do here? You expect to win? You can't. You can't win when you let up 30 points because that means that the other team is controlling the ball for long enough for you not to – you have to be perfect. And they were perfect against the Packers outside of one play where the Packers got a turnover and, they scored immediately because of it happened to be inside the 20-yard line. And it's a shame because this team, they're not a good enough football team. They have to play perfect. They're going into Philadelphia. I mean, I don't expect them to win. I don't expect them to win this game. I don't expect them to beat the Vikings. I don't expect them to beat the Lions. I don't expect them to beat the Texans. So that's 4 games in a row. I think they lose. At that point, they're probably fucking, selling.
And you think that there's no chance they're trading Josh Haynes Allen?
No,
No.
it's impossible.
People are saying the other kid, Wilson, Tavon Wilson, was
Trayvon Walker.
Trayvon Walker. That's it. I don't think I want him.
He's not available either.
He might be.
No.
You lose this game, you're 2-7. You're staring down the barrel of a really, really tough schedule. You know there's going to be a coaching change.
But they're 2-7 though, with the ability to go 11-6 or 12-5 next year. All they need is a few pieces in the secondary and a real coach. And not saying Doug Peterson's not a real coach, but Doug Peterson is an offensive mind that has failed on the defensive end for the last 4 years. So if you fail over and over and over again in one phase of the game and it's causing the team to spiral, then there's nothing that you can do to stay.
I think he's a great head coach. I can't understand why this keeps happening in Jacksonville.
They suck, dude, because the GM, they got rid of Darius Williams and they brought in Ronald Darby. And they said, we're going to run man. No, you don't want to run man. He's not a good enough corner to consistently run man. You still have to run zone and you have to run it effectively. And he's not capable of doing that. You know, you have the players on the defensive front to stop the run, but you don't have the players to stop the pass. So teams are shredding you over the middle and down the sideline. Their safeties are too slow, Matt. Their corners they have one corner, Tyson Campbell, and he can't stay healthy. And their other corner, they drafted a guy, Jarian Jones. Okay. You know who their safety is? Or you know who their nickel corner is?
Jamal Agnew.
Darnell Savage.
Is Jamal Agnew still on that team?
Jamal Agnew?
Yeah.
Jamal Agnew is not. I don't know where he is, but Jamal Agnew is there. I mean, he's an offensive player.
He was a corner, believe it or not.
Was he?
Yeah, he was.
Well, he was playing fucking wide receiver for them for the last 3 years. But they signed a safety to play nickel, and their backup nickel is a safety that they drafted in the 5th round. And you can't do that. You have there has to be, like, I understand the focus of your nickel being close to the line of scrimmage and having to come up and make tackles. I get it. Great. That works maybe against the Dolphins because, you know, they run a lot of the quick screens and quick out routes to their running backs and receivers. I get that. That works. But it doesn't work anywhere else, really. I don't understand why that's the approach they would take. They have to get a guy that can actually cover because it's ridiculous to see. No, you run 12 personnel, right? And that works against 12 personnel. But when a team says, you know what, we're not going to run 12 personnel against the Jaguars, we're just going to roll one tight end out there because we could just put a receiver on the field and cook their nickel. Yeah. You know, we can, and then it's going to put stress on your outside corners because there's just a lot of guys running free underneath. And then all of a sudden your corner that's man up is 30 years old and he's getting cooked now. So now you got 2 out of the 3 guys getting cooked and your best corner is not playing because he's hurt with a hamstring injury every year. The secondary sucks.
So overall here, you think the Eagles are winning. Do you think they cover that spread? You think they cover 7.5?
No.
Okay, I'm with you there. Can I move on to your now other team, your third team you're rooting for?
Oh, the Ravens?
The Ravens.
They'll win.
The Ravens are playing the Broncos today.
They're going to crush them.
I don't think so. I disagree. The Ravens looked bad last week. They lost now they should not have lost that game. Who was the guy that dropped that ball? Literally hit him in the face. 40 yards down the field. Lamar throws
Bateman. I like Bateman. It's not working out.
Lamar throws a beautiful pass to him. The guy beats the safety. He beats the corner. He's wide open. At a minimum, should have been like a 50, 60-yard gain. It wasn't. They got the Broncos. Now, that was a really poor game to lose. That's a divisional game. You can't lose those games. The Ravens, as good as they are. What? No, what do you mean?
No, you can't lose that game.
The Ravens, as good as they are, have not looked like the super team that they've looked like in the past 2, 3, 4 years now. They had a decent September, lost to the Chiefs, they started 0-2, cleaned it up by beating the Cowboys and the Bills, beat the Bengals, Commanders, Bucks, and now they lost to the Browns. So you think they win today? I think that they win today. I wouldn't take the over in this game though. The Broncos are better than people want to give them credit for. Sean Payton is one of the better coaches of our generation. I'll stand on that. I think the Saints. I think Sean Payton just shouldn't have the power in the room that he does. I think very similar to him that I think of Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is a great. Same thing with John Gruden. All three of those guys are the best at game prep. They're the best game day head coaches you could ever ask for. I don't think there's anyone better. But in terms of drafting, all three of those guys, they all have power in the room when it comes to drafting, and they can't draft. Belichick can't draft, especially the last decade of him in New England. The guy was terrible in the draft, terrible in the first and second round. Same with Sean Payton, same with John Gruden. Now, we're talking game day. The Broncos have a decent team. Sean Payton has made Bo Nix look a world better than I think Bo Nix actually is. He's gotten him to throw the ball real well. He's gotten him to run the ball real well. I think this is a low-scoring game. I think the Ravens do win this game, but I think this is like a 21-17 type game. I don't think they cover that 9-point spread. That's a lot. The Broncos are better than that. Now, the Broncos could lay a stinker up today. Baltimore's home, but if you want to get frisky today, Broncos are plus 340 on the money line. You want to fuck around and take an alternate spread on the Broncos at like minus 2.5. You want to sprinkle $20 on that? I don't know what that would get you, but that's not bad. I like the Broncos today. I don't think that they're going to win, but I think 9 is way too much. Way too much.
Yeah. I think that the Broncos stop the run very, very effectively. So that's the biggest thing I'm looking at. They got this guy. They got some guys. Like
Patrick Surtain is one of the best corners in the NFL.
He is, but the Denver's got like weird guys that are very good against the run on their line, like Jonathan Cooper, Roach, John Franklin Myers, guys that aren't going to rush the passer, but they're going to be able to they're going to be stopping the run. So
right.
I would say if I'm Baltimore, I'm just throwing it all over the place, and I'm letting Lamar Jackson sit back there and make the guys look stupid. I think that because they have Lamar Jackson, they're going to score 30 points.
How many snaps do you think Deontay Johnson gets today for them? At least for the fantasy owners out there.
I wouldn't go near him.
No.
Maybe 15. He just traded for him on Monday, right?
Yeah. I'm sure they've done some goal line stuff with him. I'm sure if they did anything, probably a lot of goal line stuff with him, just to see if they could get a quick score.
Maybe. I think they'll send him on some go routes.
Mm-hmm.
Bring back the Hollywood Brown type routes for Lamar, but I'm not expecting anything. Zay Flowers is really good, and Bateman dropped that pass, but Bateman had been turning it on lately. So it's a good pickup, but I don't think it matters until week 12 when he gets into the thick of things and really gets going. I've been getting trade offers for him in fantasy, and I continue to turn them down.
When is your trade deadline, your fantasy league?
I don't know. There's some leagues I just get a trade offer every day, and I'm just like, usually it's week 11.
Okay.
So, which is the right week.
One more game we'll talk about here. Lions Packers. They're in Green Bay. The Lions are favorited by minus 2.5. I believe Jordan Love is going to play in this game. He looked like he was good to go. Jared's on a tear, but this is a good defense. This is a really good defense. This is another defense that is in the market for a pass rusher, along with Detroit, along with Baltimore. I know Baltimore. I think Baltimore's definitely making another trade before the deadline's over. But obviously, it's going to be a lot more challenging. The Bengals win today. If the Browns win today, there's really that limits the amount of guys out there. Who wins today in Green Bay? Honest answer. And this is a very interesting game, right? Because if the Packers win, they go from the 6th seed to the 1. Now, it's like way too early to talk about seeding, but it is relevant, right? they go from the 6 seed to the 1 and leading the division, and we go down from the 1 to the 6. Who wins today and why?
I think the Lions are going to win. I don't think Jordan Love can move. I think he's hurt.
I almost think that they were better off starting Malik Willis, giving him a full week with the ones, than they were starting a hurt Jordan Love. The Lions have been able to beat Jordan Love in the past. They've been able to turn the ball over on him. Malik Willis and Jordan Love, because of that groin injury, is going to be limited in the mobility. He's going to spend a lot of time in the pocket. Now, that may not be the worst thing, right? Because the Lions pass rush doesn't look great, especially missing Aiden Hutchinson. Like it's not the best pass rush right now. So if you're kind of looking at it like, yeah, we don't need mobility, he's going to have time to throw if you're banking on that. But I would say this. I mean, Aaron Glenn has done a really good job the past 2 weeks, disguising. Has it been? No, it's been 2 weeks since he got hurt. 2 games. He's done a really good job disguising his blitzes, disguising who he's going to send. He's been sending guys in the secondary. He's been sending his linebackers almost every play. So he's got to continue to do something here. The Packers offense is good. Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs has looked fantastic, running it all over on every team they've played. As lopsided as the score looked last week against Tennessee, the Titans were able to get a lot of rushing yards on both sides and just exposing the Lions not really having any defensive ends to play. So I think that this is going to be a very important game. Obviously for the standings, it's a divisional game, but it's going to really kind of show Brad Holmes, the Lions GM, like what he has to do at the deadline, right? If the Lions are able to sack Jordan Love, 4 or 5 times today and disguise blitzes, then yeah, maybe you just trade for a Zadarius Smith or someone if he's available and you call it a day. I think if the Packers have 5-6 seconds to throw every time and they cook this secondary and potentially we lose this game, I think you get a little desperate, and I think you really try to make a move. You try to make multiple moves because, as I've said in the past, this is the Lions' best chance to win a Super Bowl, and that's what this whole thing's about.
Yeah, and this is their first game that's not in a dome. People are going to say, "Oh, the Lions are going to suck because they haven't been," but they are built to play outside.
And rainy.
Yeah, they're built to play outside, so I think that the Lions will win this game. I don't think it'll be close.
I think it'll be close. I don't like this spread of 2.5.
I'm just looking. I'm
going to bet on this. I'm probably going to I'm going to buy a point here and take him at 1.5.
We go back and we look at the Packers' schedule. They were able to crush the Cardinals. They barely beat the Texans at home, and they barely beat the Jaguars, 2 teams that aren't very good. They lost to the Vikings, barely beat the Rams, beat the Titans. So who have they beaten? They've beaten the Titans and the Cardinals convincingly. So they haven't been. Lost to the Eagles, lost to the Packers.
The
Texans lost to the Eagles, barely beat the Colts, but the Colts had Anthony Richardson in. They've been getting lucky.
Yeah.
More than they've been playing well. So I'm.
You think that this is a game that the Lions could expose the Packers a little bit?
I think they're going to blow them out.
Really?
Yeah, okay. The Packers are just, dude. They also, I hate to be this guy, but the Jaguars remind me, the 2023 Jaguars remind me of the 2024 Packers. The Packers have been extremely opportunistic. And they've been able to force a lot of turnovers. And I think turnovers are the biggest way to win games, but they're also the hardest way to win consistently. Right. So who's forced the most turnovers this year? The Packers. They've forced 19, and they're barely beating teams. Right. The Lions have forced 15. They're second with the Vikings, Steelers, 49ers, and Bills. So go look at the top 6 teams in turnovers: Packers, Lions, Vikings, Steelers, Niners, Bills. All teams that are playoff teams potentially. Niners have been giving it away a lot more than other teams, so they they don't have as much to show for it. But as far as the teams that don't force turnovers, the Titans, the Raiders, the Jaguars, the Dolphins, the Eagles are the only team that has a winning record out of those teams. So there's always one random team on both sides of the spectrum that don't perform like they should. But I take the turnovers and I say, all right, are you gonna force 40 turnovers this year, Green Bay? I don't think so. Nobody does. I think the Colts are the last team to force over 35 turnovers, and that was when they had Carson Wentz. I don't think that Green Bay can keep it up. And I think that this is one of those games where they don't force a turnover and they get smacked.
All right. Do we have anything else?
No, I'm excited for the trade deadline. So let's see what happens this week and then see who gets traded.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and maybe we'll see you Thursday, but definitely on Sunday. So stay tuned in to all the socials. Throw us a follow, and we will see you next week. Thank you again. Let's go Lions. Go Jags.
We'll see.